I've never really spoken about this in public before, so you're kind of the first, really. I've spoken to Sheryl about it, of course. When I was 5 years old, we were driving home with my parents, and we were driving on a road called Darlinghurst Road in Victoria, and we were only 5 minutes from my home, and I was asleep on my mother's lap. We weren't involved in a car accident. I actually was thrown from the window and went under the back wheel while still asleep. I instantly left my body, and I saw it on the road. I saw my father get out of the car, run around and pick me up, and he was holding me like that. There was no life. Neighbours came out and said, well, is he alive or dead? And my father said, I don't know. So I probably lingered around there for another 15-20 minutes by the time an ambulance arrived. And then a being of light was basically next to me and said, well, have you seen enough? And I said, oh yeah, I suppose. And then, for a better word, a craft. It was very bronze. It was very gothic in its appearance, and it reminded me of a bus. And I looked at the side of this thing and I said, oh, there's people on board. I could go there. And of course there was no door steps, it was zonk instantly. And then going down the tunnel, of course. And I ended up in a coma for 3 months at the Preston and Northcote Community Hospital for Children. It's been hence torn down. All the medical records were destroyed in 1992. There were no accident records. And the reason why it was so important to me is because I never remembered that for 39 years. For 39 years I knew there was something astray. I didn't know what it was, and I'd always chewed my nails. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I was abducted from Bundamba in the late 1990s. The next night I went to bed. I knew something quite profound had happened because there was a lot of evidence left and so on. And then everything came back like a flash flood. Not only the accident, but there's also another side to this story. I was actually at Westall school at the time of the sources. And I was thrown from a car the week after I got home from Westall. So I never remembered the accident. I never remembered Westall. I never remembered anything until that particular time that it came flooding back. Then of course, when I was 11, my parents had split. I ended up in Victoria, so I got into touch with a family in Melbourne and said, hey, this is what I remember. And they said, you're spot on.
Okay.
You were in a coma for 3 months, you blah, blah, blah. Going down the tunnel and going to heaven was an experience I remembered also. There was a pinprick in the distance. We were travelling towards it very fast, and as I got there, it opened up like it was a massive place. And to the right of me there was like a glass screen that was 50 feet high and 100 feet long, and all these colours, thousands of them, and I could see their trails, purple, blue, whites, were all coming to this screen and all looking at me, and this being of light was standing next to me. And I said, what is this? Oh, they're people. I said, oh, they're very colourful, very nice, you know. And of course we're walking through a garden and there's all these flowers coming up. And if I had to describe the flowers, it's a little bit like, have you ever seen the movie Avatar? Where everything's crystalline and skimming off. That's exactly what it was like. The difference was, this being says to me, oh, you're having very nice thoughts today. I was creating these flowers simply through thinking about it. So everything was about my mind. Then I crossed this little bridge, and in the distance it looked like a 16-story building. It was made of pearl, and it was cream, the same colour as a pearl, or white, depending on the colour. And I was cowering at the base of it, and I get this voice that says, the Line of Judea wants to talk to you. I'm not religious, and I had no idea at 5 years old what the hell the Line of Judea was. But next thing, this being virtually come around this way, and the power and the light hit me like a lightning, and just, oh my God. And the next thing I knew, I was back in the coma. But before I went back into the coma, going back toward where I entered, there were all these people again, and the being of light said, there's others that want to talk to you before you go. And I thought, oh, okay. And there was this dozen beings of light standing there, and they said, why are you going back? And I said, because I'm concerned about my mother. She threw me from the car, she's obviously had a turn, I'm concerned about her. You can stay here, it's lovely, there's no pain, but if you go back there, you're going to suffer. So I thought, oh, okay. The next thing I knew, I woke up in a coma, in horrendous pain. But there was another side to this as well. I was abducted while in the coma. That's the only reason why I was alive. As they put me back in, I come back to life. And like I said, I never remembered anything for all those years until one night my son and I were playing with video camera. And it was a black and white Swan video camera that was connected to a monitor, one of the earlier ones. And I had no shirt on. And my son went past me like that and he said, oh my God. And he went back and I had a black mark that went down, I can still see it, down to here and split there, that you couldn't see with the naked eye, but only with the particular black and white camera. And when I showed the footage at the time to my doctor, he said, that's an autopsy scar.
Oh, okay.
I never had no autopsy.
Not that you knew of.
So, kind of that was my experience as far as that goes. I've had a few things that are very strange. I was telling some people earlier on, I had a young girl, she was about 11 years old, and I was going to a parent's place on the Wednesday. We were having a few drinks and a barbecue because they were getting married that Saturday at the Gold Coast. And they had four children, sorry, she was the oldest of the four. And she came to the door and she said to me, very happy about it, she said, I'm going away soon. And I said, yeah, I know, your parents are getting married at the coast on Saturday, you're going to the coast with your parents. She said, no, not there. She said, you know, you've been there. And I sort of looked at her and I said, what do you mean I've been there? What are you talking about? She said, oh, you know, you've been there and that's where I'm going. I said, well, how do you know to go there? The little people told me. And it sort of stuck in my mind, and I didn't really bring it up with the adults because I didn't really make sense of it at first. And of course they went to the coast, and the Saturday she was found dead in the pool.
Ah, okay.
There was no way that I could tell family or friends, even though I was there, that she knew she was going and she was happy about it. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't say anything. So ever since then I've kind of had an affinity with death, especially when it comes to people that I know. I always get pre-warnings. And it's usually, it's not usually during the day, it's usually my sleep. Things like that. Of course, I've been abducted many times, over and over. I've got marks on my body that I still can't explain to this day.
Derek is going to be the guest speaker at our next UFO meeting, which is on the last Friday of this month. So he's going to tell a bit about his experience at Westall and what he witnessed, because he's the missing witness.
My story's never been told.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'll have to come along to the UFO meeting, Terry, and listen to that story there.
And the amount of inconsistencies is incredible.
Yeah.
Because I was there. I know.
Yeah.
I know what I saw and I know what happened. And when you listen to my story, the pieces of the puzzle fit perfectly. Because if you think, if people are in heaven, they're light, they're dead. That's where we come from. You're a higher state of being there than you are in the flesh. When you are flesh, you're extremely limited. If you say to yourself, why would God do such a thing? Why would you do that? And one of the reasons why, and this is at least from what I can gather, and that is when you're in heaven, absolute freedom, absolute knowledge, absolute love. How can you judge what everything is like if that freedom's not taken away from you? You have to have your freedom taken away from you so you know what it's like not to have that freedom. Hence the reason why you're put into a body that is limited. When you go to do something, it has to be a human action. It takes time, process. Heaven, different story. Happens instantly. Also, I think if you look at it in this context, Jesus said a simple thing. He said, change your mind. The Bible isn't a book about basically how they lived really. It's about the mind. It's a book about the mind. Everybody that reads about Adam and Eve, it's atom and electron, the beginning of consciousness, is where religion has got it so wrong. And if you think about it, from the Egyptian times to the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church decided that our coffers are getting low, So we'll hand out pieces of paper to people and say, here, you'll get to the afterlife, but it's going to cost. Most Western worlds don't believe in reincarnation. That's their first fault. That's their first fault. If you don't believe in reincarnation, then how come people have near death? The only difference is they're going back in their own body, not somebody else's.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.